And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Picks and Roll podcast here with Steady Picks and host Scott Reichel. We're here to break down the two games on the NBA card for Wednesday. Very underwhelming card, for being fully honest here. We had 4 games when we started, then we're down to 3. Now we're down to 2. Simple explanation, because there is an extra day off for traveling for these series that are tied 1-1. Extra day off between Game 2 and Game 3. And all of these series, the NBA decided to manufacture some content for the off day, because we do have the Magic and the Pistons, as well as the Thunder and Suns playing as the only 2 games on the Wednesday slate. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Moving on into the first game, we have the Magic, who are taking on the Pistons. The Magic is the 8th seed, won Game 1 outright, which was kind of shocking to a lot of people, but either way, they got the job done in a pretty pathetic performance from the Pistons. I'll get into the Game 1 recap in a second. For Game 2, though, the Pistons are laying 9.5, and the over-under is at 218.5. So Orlando did win Game 1 in Detroit, 112-101, and it was pretty embarrassing for Detroit. It wasn't a fluky win by any means. In fact, the Pistons led for a grand total of 0 minutes and 0 seconds. They trailed for basically the entire game, and Orlando kind of ran away with it as the game went along. But the Pistons really could not hit a shot besides Cade. Cade had 39 points. Besides that, Tobias Harris had 17. Nobody besides those 2 players scored more than 9 points on the Pistons. So a really awful performance from everybody involved. The Pistons as a full team shot 40% from the floor and 31% from 3. So definitely a pathetic showing there. For Orlando, shot the ball well from the floor, but really didn't shoot the ball well from 3, which is concerning for Detroit. For Orlando, team shot 49% from the floor and only 29% from 3. So you figured Orlando, anytime you get an 8 versus a 1 upset in a game, usually one team gets hot, you see a decent three-point percentage, and they simply just outshot their expected numbers. Orlando really didn't do that. They're a bad three-point shooting team, and they looked like it in Game 1, but it really didn't matter because Orlando got to the paint at will. Detroit's offense was really bad, but their defense was also pretty pathetic as well. Orlando outscored Detroit in Game 1 by a total of 54-34 in points in the paint. So yes, Orlando could not shoot, but they were able to get to the rim at will. Paolo had a great game. Franz played well too. Going through the numbers there, Paolo had 23 points on 8 of 15 shooting, and Franz had 19 points on 7 of 13 shooting. So Detroit's defense, which was one of its main, I'd say, calling cards throughout the regular season en route to 60 wins, was horrible in Game 1. They no-showed the entire game on both sides of the ball. And Orlando, following that embarrassing loss to Philly in the play-in and the loss to the Celtics G League team, basically, in the regular season finale, they have remembered how to play basketball. They ended up burying Charlotte in the final play-in game, and they carried it over with the same exact game plan against the Pistons in Game 1. Real story for the Pistons, besides the supporting cast not showing up, one guy in particular was Duren, who was horrendous as a potential All-NBA guy. Played 33 minutes, scored 8 points, and had 7 rebounds. So a complete non-factor in the entire game. It was Cade, a little bit of Tobias Harris, and nobody else. And even Tobias Harris had 17 points and 5 of 15 shooting. So just a pathetic showing by the Pistons. We'll see if they bounce back here in Game 2. The real question, though, for this matchup is if we're going to see Orlando out-physical Detroit once again, or will Detroit rise to the occasion, finally win a home playoff game, and even up the series at 1. Now, I do think it's worth mentioning that Bickerstaff, we know, has been pretty terrible in the playoffs recently, especially over the last couple of years, and we saw that again here in Game 1. We'll see if he can make some adjustments or if Detroit's effort level just has to rise, simple as that. Before the actual number, a lot of people are going to probably take Orlando because, once again, they outplayed Detroit in the first game. The talent disparity was really not too jarring. It felt like both teams were pretty evenly matched based on talent, but once again, the Pistons couldn't have shot besides Cade for the entire game. So I think a lot of people are going to be on Orlando in this game. If you want to go zigzag theory, which we ended up seeing work out for a couple of series already, like Minnesota and like the Hawks, for example, then Detroit makes sense at home. Now, I think for this one, I would go with Detroit, but we did end up winning the total that we had for Game 1. We had the under. We thought it'd be an ugly game. We thought that Orlando's offense would struggle. We got that part wrong. They scored 112, but Detroit's offense wasn't great as they only scored 101. I see a couple of scripts to get to the under once again here. So I'm going to go with the under at around 218.5, 219.5 if you shop around. But either way, best number I see right now is 219.5 at minus 117. I think we'll see another ugly game. I think even if the Pistons bounce back and, let's say, for the sake of convenience, bury the Magic while covering the spread, Orlando probably scores less than 100 points. And I think we're looking at, once again, a low-scoring physical battle between these two teams. And it could be a close game where Orlando ends up winning, or even Detroit wins. And you say it's first to 105, ends up winning this matchup. But 219.5, when the massive favorite 1 seed could only score 101 points in game 1, I think tells you that this number is a bit high, because Detroit can wake up offensively. Orlando's still a solid defensive team. The issue with them is the offense. So if we end up seeing Detroit's offense wake up and score, let's say, 115 in this game, there's no guarantee Orlando even gets to 105. So based on that, I see a couple of paths to an under in this game. My favorite play in this game is going to be the under. Of course, I have player props at the end of the show, so I have a couple of player props for this matchup as well. But for the actual side and total, it's Detroit or pass for me. If you want to argue maybe Detroit first half, they get off to a good start after getting embarrassed on their home floor in game 1. I don't mind that. That's around 5, give or take, but I think that could be an option as well. But I think my favorite play, once again, is going to be the total. I'm going to pass on the side. Could go a couple of ways. If the Pistons' offense is really this broken, and you're looking at Asar and, for example, Jenkins, who just can't hit any shots at all from the perimeter, they got problems. So based on that, I will pass on the side. It would be first half spread, if anything, but I do think the best play is the total. I'm going to go with the under 219.5, and once again, minus 117. Moving on to the other game, which is an even bigger spread for the 1 seed here, as the Thunder are favored by roughly 17.5 points in game 2 against the Suns, and the over-under's at 214.5. Now, this game, we got everything right in for game 1 because we went complete chalk. We picked a route, and we got it. We thought the Thunder would win by about 25. They won by about 35, and that was kind of the story of the game. But either way, we had the Thunder to dominate with the spread. We had the Booker under points, which got there because he got benched for the entire fourth quarter, which we had no business winning. But once again, good game script worked out to our benefit, so that was definitely included in the handicap. And the Suns' offense could not score to save their lives. So they scored 84 points in the entire game. Thunder dominated. They were up by 15 after a quarter. Once Chet hit that buzzer beater to end the first quarter, you knew the game was over. And I thought the Thunder would be up handily at half. They were, and they coasted to a nice, easy win. The question is, can the Suns do anything based on their own limitations in terms of talent to bounce back in the series? No. I'm not going to pretend that the Suns can make this interesting. They probably will end up getting swept. Maybe could argue they get up for game 3 or game 4. But in OKC, I expect another bloodbath. I think the spread makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to argue for the Suns. I think that zigzag theory, once again, is a flawed concept. It makes sense if you want to argue that both teams are similar in terms of talent. But this isn't even close. I mean, game 1 looked like it was a battle between a 1 seed and a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. It was over quickly, and the Suns never stood a chance. Plus, you saw Grayson Allen, who was supposed to be active for game 1. He did not play. So I'm assuming the coaching staff looked at the scoreboard and said, why bother? We'll get him a couple extra days of rest. We'll see if he plays in game 2. Goodwin, though, got injured after 5 minutes, did not return. So maybe we'll see another guy out for the Suns in this one. But either way, you're looking at the actual injury report. Mark Williams, once again, is questionable. He didn't play in game 1. Either way, the point is it definitely seems grim that he'll be able to give serious minutes in this one. But we'll see what happens. Now, for the actual stats for OKC, they were great. They ended up really dominating defensively. Offensively, though, they weren't that great efficiency-wise, as they only shot 45% from the floor and just 30% from 3, and they still won by 35 points because the Suns couldn't have shot. The Suns shot 35% from the floor, 33% from 3, and they also committed 17 turnovers. By comparison, the Thunder committed 6. So do I think the Suns can do anything to keep this game close? No. I think they need either Booker or Brooks, probably both, or Green, I guess all 3, to shoot the ball efficiently, which I don't see happening because we know how good this defense is for OKC with all the people they have down there, or I should say in the backcourt with Caruso, with Dort, with Jalen Williams, with SGA, with Cason Wallace. They have so many elite defenders on ball that I really don't see many open shots for the Suns in this game. Not to mention the fact that they got blitzed on the boards in this game as well. The Thunder out-rebounded the Suns by 9. And in the first quarter, Chet had 6 rebounds. So Chet really took control of the game early on the glass and a couple of offensive rebounds as well for easy putbacks. I think the Suns are a dead team walking. I thought that the Suns would get swept pretty handily in the series, and we saw that in game 1. I'm not sure they lose again by 35, but I can see another 20-point loss. I think you might have to sweat out the actual 17.5 for garbage time if once again, a Thunder bench the entire starting lineup and we see a couple of bench warmers playing in the final few minutes. Maybe the Suns backdoor it, but in reality, they're playing different sports right now. The Suns got in as of course, 8 seed, good for them, in a season where nobody expects them to be any good. But the Thunder are defending champions back at home, and they are definitely the team to beat in the entire playoff field. I got to go with OKC here, but I do think there's a better way of playing this instead of worrying about the fourth quarter with garbage time. I think if the Thunder are going to cover 17.5, I think they'll probably be up double digits at halftime. I'll go for the Thunder first half spread, minus 9.5 at minus 125. I think they jump the Suns early. I know you could argue desperation will play a factor, and maybe the Suns get up for this game early on before getting buried later on. I don't agree. I think with this crowd environment, the Thunder jump them early. I think they coast again, and I think we might see an exact same script as game one, except not as drastic. I'll say a 22-point win instead of 35, but instead of worrying about the actual full game spread, which I am picking the Thunder to cover, though, just to be clear, I do think the first half spread is definitely a better approach for me. Get all the starters playing a bunch of minutes, let them jump this team early again, be up double digits at half, and then not worry about the second half at all. There we go. That's kind of my thoughts for this one. I got the Thunder in this game. For the over-under, it's really tricky because the Suns failed to score 85 points in game one. And the last two home games for OKC against the Suns, not including the last regular season meeting where they benched everybody, the Suns have scored less than 90 points in both games. So their team totals at 98.5, and I really can't argue it because I do think that the, once again, Suns might just struggle to actually get to 90 in this game again, which I guess brings me to an under because the Suns defense gave up 119, but the Thunder still did not shoot the ball that well in game one. They shot 45% from the floor, 30% from three. I think that the Suns could do a better job defensively in this one, which might keep the game somewhat closer. But I'm not sure if the Suns actually score in this game. So I'll go with the under, but I don't really feel great about it. Once again, I prefer the side. Give me the Thunder first half spread, minus 9.5, as my favorite play for this game. Moving on to player props. So I am going to go with a couple of player props for the Pistons game, and I found one that I do like in the Thunder game. For the Pistons game, I'm going to go with complete chalk. Give me Cade Cunningham over on his points at 27.5 at minus 125. Orlando's defensive strategy was pretty simple in game one. Let Cade shoot. And it's not because he's bad, but it's because they want to really force Cade to do everything offensively while limiting the playmaking. So they are going to guard everyone else, let Cade get his, and once again, keep everyone else in check, which worked to perfection in game one. Just for the reference here, Cade in his last 5 games against the Magic has scored 29 plus points. He attempted at least 24 shots in each of those 5 games. In game one, he had 39 points on 27 shot attempts. So Orlando was able to limit everyone else, really just force Cade to beat them by himself. And I think we're going to see the exact same strategy here in game two. Now, I think Duren will play better. He can't play much worse, but I think Cade will be forced into a bunch of isolation possessions, and I think he'll end up taking a bunch of shots, not to mention the free throw line. I think he'll get to the line a bit more in game two. But Cade points is too low for what Orlando wants to do. They are letting Cade take 24-plus shots a game, and they've done this exact same game plan all season. So once again, give me Cade over 27.5 points at minus 125 as my first player prop for this game. Second one's going to be on Duncan Robinson, under 2.5 rebounds at minus 127. He's had less than 3 rebounds in 8 of his last 11. In game one, he had 0 rebounds, and once again, Duren only had 7. So Duren could easily clean up and have a monster rebounding game where he has 15, which is not exactly unrealistic, which would limit the rebounds available for Robinson. But he had 0 anyway when Duren was horrible in game one. He's had less than 2 rebounds in 2 of the last 3 against Orlando. It's a D-gen play, but once again, Robinson, not really known for his rebounding. He's pretty much solely a 3-point shooter. And with Duren, with Cade, who we know has some size as well, and with Tobias Harris as well, I don't see many chances for Robinson to get boards in this game. So give me the under 2.5 for his rebounds, minus 127 as my second player prop for the Pistons game. Moving on to the Thunder game. I have one player prop because the spread's so massive, it's really tricky to fully jump into star players on either side because there might be a blowout or there might not be. So you have to wonder about playing time for both teams. We took Booker under his points. The lines adjusted, but we got pretty fortunate that he did not play at all in the fourth quarter of that one. But I think for this one, I'm going to go with a role player on Phoenix. Give me Royce O'Neal under 7.5 points at -120. He's had less than 8 points in 5 of his last 8 road games, and he's been really bad against the Thunder. He's had less than 5 points in 3 of his last 4 against OKC. He scored 4 points in game 1, and the common theme here in those games is that he doesn't attempt any shots. For the actual matchups, he's attempted less than 3 shots in 3 of his last 4 against the Thunder. So he really never has volume. Once again, 3 of the last 4 against this team, he's had 2 shot attempts in each of those 3. So the point is the volume's not there. We know O'Neal's mostly a 3-point shooter who really never goes to the free throw line. And based on that, I do think the lack of volume will cause him to go under once again. I think Booker and Brooks and Green will take almost all of these shots, not to mention Grayson Allen, who also might take some shots if he comes back from injury, as he was active in game 1 and did not play. But I think O'Neal's points are too high for a guy that never shoots against this team. So I'll go for Royce O'Neal under 7.5 points at -120 as my final player prop for the show. Anyways, to wrap it up for the actual card on Wednesday for the NBA. If you like the show, like, subscribe, and find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.